So yesterday, Donald Trump did his first press briefing since the Republican National Convention, the first press briefing since the shootings over the weekend. It was insanely insane. I don't know any other way to describe it. It was a veritable historic house of horrors. Let's just get right into the clips. Now, as you know, one of Trump's supporters shot and killed two people in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And then we also had a Trump supporter shot in Portland. And Trump comes out and he says, I want to give you an update about left-wing violence in the United States. Take a look.
Vaccine very rapidly in record time. I also want to provide an update on left-wing political violence that we're seeing in Democrat-run cities. Under my administration, federal law enforcement is working with state and local authorities all over the country to comb through hours of video, track down rioters, looters, and arsonists, and bring them to justice.
So before we go any further, I know many of you know this. Just give me 30 seconds to remind you. Most politically based violence in the United States is right wing, period. The Anti-Defamation League has studied this for a long time. Their latest report from 2018 says 50 of 50 people killed in 2018 were killed by right-wing political extremism. 78% were white supremacists. 16% were anti-government extremists. 4% were incel extremists. And one guy was an Islamist extremist. Remember, I think Islamic extremism rightly should be considered right-wing. Because it is really not. I mean, listen, if you take religion to that level and believe religion should be law and that people should die over it, that is not a left wing belief I've ever seen. But that was one guy. OK, so maybe it was 49 out of 50, according to the ADL. CSIS has identified that the overwhelming majority of violence from extremists in the U.S. comes from white supremacists, anti-government, small government extremists, including militias and so-called sovereign citizens groups. The Center for Investigative Reporting looked at this. From 2008 to 2016, they found that out of 115 right-wing terror incidents, 63 Islamist-inspired terror incidents, and 19 left-wing incidents. Overwhelming violence is from the right. And then lastly, the National Consortium for the Study of Terrorism maintains these profiles in radicalization, and they have found that radicalized individuals since 1948 are 40% far right, 25% Islamist, 17% far left, and 18 single issue folks who could be anywhere on the political spectrum or outside of it. So don't ever allow yourself to be distracted. The vast majority of political violence is right wing. Donald Trump also claims without evidence that left wing protesters have killed a lot of people.
In America, we will never surrender to mob rule, because if the mob rules, democracy is indeed dead. The reason we're continuing to see violence in left-wing cities today is that liberal politicians, mayors, prosecutors, and judges are refusing to enforce the law and put the rioters in jail. These are rioters. These are dangerous people. These are killers. They kill a lot of people.
Donald Trump given the opportunity to condemn the pro-Trump protesters that were shooting paintballs at people, driving vehicles into people, pepper spraying people over the weekend. Donald Trump says, well, those were peaceful protesters. And he answers CNN reporter Caitlin Collins by saying that her supporters are the ones being violent.
I have a question on coronavirus, but first, you were just criticizing Joe Biden, saying he didn't mention the far left or Antifa during his speech today. You said you wanted to talk about left-wing political violence. Yeah. But I noticed you did not mention that your supporters were also in Portland this weekend, firing paintball guns at people, some form of pepper spray. So do you want to also take this chance to condemn what your supporters did in Portland?
Well, I understand they had large numbers of people that were supporters, but that was a peaceful protest. And paint is not, and paint is a defensive mechanism. Paint is not bullets. Your supporters, and they are your supporters indeed, shot a young gentleman who, and killed him, not with paint, but with a bullet. And I think it's disgraceful. These people, they protested peacefully. They went in very peacefully. And I'll tell you what they're protesting. They're protesting when they turn on television or read whatever they may be reading, and they see a city like Chicago, where 78 people were shot and 13 died, or a city like New York, where the crime rate has gone through the roof, or a city like Portland, where the entire city is ablaze all the time, and a mayor says, we don't want any help from the federal government. When these people turn that on and they see that, they say, this is not our country. This is not our country. That was a peaceful protest, totally.
Caitlin Collins supporters, what does that even mean? And Donald Trump received a follow-up question. He ended up defending Kyle Rittenhouse, the 17-year-old supporter of his, who has now been charged with homicide after killing 2 people in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Take a look.
Go ahead, please. Yeah, go ahead, please.
It was a supporter of yours, Mr. President.
Are you
going to condemn the action? It was a supporter of yours, Mr. President, who killed someone that was accused of killing 2 people. It's a supporter of yours.
Saying, are you going to condemn the actions of vigilantes like Kyle Rittenhouse?
We're looking at all of it. That was an interesting situation. You saw the same tape as I saw. And he was trying to get away from them, I guess, it looks like. And he fell. And then they very violently attacked him. And it was something that we're looking at right now, and it's under investigation. But I guess he was in very big trouble. He would have been. He probably would have been killed. But it's under investigation.
Do you think private citizens should be taking guns?
I'd like to see law enforcement take care of everything. I think everything should be taken care of, law enforcement. But again, we have to give our cops back, our police back, their dignity, the respect. They're very talented people.
And of course, Donald Trump continuing to insist that Joe Biden won't condemn violence. Now, Joe Biden gave a speech yesterday where he condemned all violence. He actually said, if it's from the right or from the left, I condemn all violence. It couldn't have been more direct and simple. And Donald Trump, who does not condemn all violence, simply repeats Biden won't condemn it.
Concerns, though, that it could exacerbate tensions and increase violence. Do you give any consideration to that?
Well, it could also increase enthusiasm, and it could increase love and respect for our country. And that's why I'm going, because they did a fantastic job. As soon as I called and told them, let's go, the whole problem stopped. That was, 6?
Now, of course, Donald Trump here, he could be right, he might not be, when he says that the tensions and the unrest could increase voter enthusiasm. We heard from Kellyanne Conway yesterday. She said very clearly, Trump believes the unrest will help him. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I think there is a case to be made that a more systemic analysis like that done by election predictor Alan Lichtman may be more accurate from the standpoint of saying systemically, how is the economy doing? These major kind of qualitative factors are more important in influencing the election. It's not inconceivable that on the margins in the 2 months between now and the election, maybe unrest will activate more of the Donald Trump base and get them to vote. It won't necessarily change people's minds, but it might activate certain parts of the electorate. I don't know. Lastly, Donald Trump was asked not to go to Kenosha, Wisconsin. A reporter said, did you consider listening to the requests of the governor and the mayor? And Trump says, nah.
Mr. President, are you giving any consideration, or did you give any consideration to the governor and mayor's request not to come to Kenosha tomorrow?
No, because Kenosha was something we did a good job on. The governor didn't want us there. He didn't want the National Guard, as you know. He was very reluctant, but I give him credit because ultimately he said yes. And as soon as he said yes, the problem ended. But I have to see the people that did such a good job for me, and we're meeting with numerous people, and we have tremendous support in the state of Wisconsin.
So will this work? That's what I want to hear from you about. Will Trump trying to foment and then capitalize on unrest, sort of playing arsonist and firefighter, is this a strategy that you believe on balance in the net will be helpful for Trump going into the election or not? I want to hear from you. We'll have continued coverage of this on our Instagram page at David Pakman Show. Real quick, I want to tell you about our sponsor, Magic Spoon, who have done something awesome. They've taken all of our favorite sugary childhood cereals that we know we shouldn't eat anymore, and turn them into something you can actually feel good about eating as an adult. There's 4 flavors: cocoa, fruity, frosted, and blueberry. They taste great. They're crunchy. They're sweet like you would expect this type of cereal to be, but it's perfect for a ketogenic diet because one bowl has only 3 net carbs, 12 grams of protein. It's sugar-free, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free. Once our team tried Magic Spoon for the first time, we actually ended up emailing Magic Spoon back and saying, can you send us more boxes? Send more samples. They've been a big hit with David Pakman Show staffers. And Magic Spoon knows how delicious their cereal is because if you don't like it, they'll refund all of your money, no questions asked. And you'll get free shipping when you go to magicspoon.com/Pakman and use the code Pakman. That's Pakman.